Marc, thank you so much for being with us. We know that as we speak, an emergency meeting is underway. How do you think this is going to be handled at a ministerial level at a time when the country is very much dealing with another crisis?
Well, we saw, obviously, the Prime Minister visiting a suburb north of Paris, cutting short his visit and just racing to the Interior Ministry, where there is a kind of crisis management mechanism that's put in place every time there is such an incident, and he's monitoring the situation. The Interior Ministry is just across the street from the presidential palace, the Élysée, where we're told the president is also monitoring the situation very closely. What we do know, and it's an interesting element, is that the prosecutor's office in charge of terrorism has just announced that it has opened a terrorism probe. This might go some way into answering one of the questions that's been around since this has unfolded. Was it just a random attack, or was it a quote-unquote terrorist attack? The fact that this specific prosecutor's office has announced that it was opening such a probe would seem to indicate that this was indeed a terrorist attack, that the former headquarters of Charlie Hebdo were targeted because this is where Charlie Hebdo used to be, and maybe the suspects thought they were still there because they've been moved to a secret location.
Wouldn't it have to do with the security issue? Because, of course, we know that the current HQ is highly secured.
Yes, but no one knows where it is because for the obvious reasons you can only imagine. So maybe the suspect thought they were still there, or maybe he wanted to make a point and go to this very narrow street in the 11th arrondissement of Paris and target. Apparently, the two wounded were working for a production company located in the building where Charlie Hebdo used to be. And so you don't go there with a machete or a knife, it's still unclear, just randomly. Because if you want to kill a lot of people, you take the subway, you go to the Eiffel Tower, you go to a place where you can kill. There, it seems that it was clearly targeted because it was Charlie Hebdo, because the trial, as you mentioned, is taking place, and we know there have been threats around this trial. The head of human resources of Charlie Hebdo had to be whisked away from her apartment just a couple of days ago. In a few minutes' time, this is what she recounted, because precisely police had assessed that she was under direct threats. We've seen some statements on the internet, on social networks coming out, it seems, from Al-Qaeda, from the Organization of the Islamic State, saying Charlie Hebdo is still our enemy. Obviously, Charlie Hebdo is on trial right now. It also decided to republish those infamous caricatures of Prophet Muhammad at the onset of this trial as a way to say the issue is still on the table, the issue of free speech, the issue of right to blasphemy, and this is still something that shouldn't be forgotten. It would seem, from what we know until now, that this has not been forgotten by the enemies of Charlie Hebdo. Maybe they were hoping to target the members or the former members of Charlie Hebdo, their lawyers, but they're under very, very strict police protection because they were the obvious targets. Going 5 years later to the place where Charlie Hebdo used to be might have been a way of saying, we're still monitoring you, we're still your enemies, and your lives are not safe even today.